Hello, welcome back to episode 10 of Sturgeon Bay. It's quite a milestone episode, I must say. Hitting double digits with hitting double digits with this. It's really a milestone for me because before this series, I'd never really gotten past an episode 3. So it's nice to see that I've come really as far as I have, and I want to keep, like I said in the last episode, I would like to keep doing it for a good while longer, and there's a lot more I want to be able to do in this city, and I think I have something a little successful in my hands, and I'm happy with it. It's content I like making, and it's content that I enjoy rewatching myself. I mean, I genuinely think I'm in the process of making a fairly good city, and that's great. But anyways, yeah, this episode we're starting out here we're going to be making the first of what there's going to end up being 3 universities and colleges and stuff in the entire city, and this is the first one, which is definitely the smallest, and this one is meant to sort of be kind of like a technical college almost, based on like the size of the buildings and kind of, you know, the overall size of the campus. So it's not supposed to be the biggest place in the world, but I do think it turns out pretty good. And I definitely went in and put some more trees on this building, which is something I've kind of neglected to do to some other buildings. I really haven't detailed things as much as I should have, and that's something I want to work on going forward in the series, since I want to take more time to make things more kind of interesting as far as what I end up building. And by the way, originally I had said that I had 2 episodes pre-recorded, this and episode 11, but I realized both those recordings are a lot shorter than I thought they were, so I've actually combined those really into being just this episode 10, so that's fine. You'll get a little bit more substance out of it, and you know, hopefully it's good, and then I can kind of get right back to working on something new right away, which will be nice. And yeah, as far as detailing things, that kind of brings me up to the next point. I've had kind of the same set of houses in the series for a long time, like since the beginning now. And I know that I originally had wanted to have more, and there was more, but some asset, I think it was some fence network or something, ended up breaking like half of the houses I made, and it sucked. And I just never really got around to making any more, but now I am finally getting around to that, so hopefully we're going to see some new buildings in new neighborhoods soon, and really once I get those, that's when I'm going to be able to make new neighborhoods. So actually, if I logged in on Steam here on my alternate account, I'll be able to see there's kind of some buildings that I'm subscribed to that I plan on using, or like kind of reworking on. Hang on, that I'm going to be able to turn into houses for the city. So we've got the American Eclectic houses, obviously. That's a nice classic set. I've used those a lot in just any city. Like I really like them. I tried using those a good bit in Forward, I believe. And those will be good for kind of suburban areas in the city, and you know, even just kind of areas just within the city, just because they are nice houses to use, and they definitely fit the kind of Midwest American thing that I'm trying to go for. If I go back through a couple pages, yeah, we've got I subscribe to a couple assets from I think the asset creator's name is Bungalow Man or something. He made some Californian bungalows, and obviously this isn't California, but I thought that those are some houses that, you know, look kind of they're definitely unique compared to other things I have, and so I wanted to add those within the city. We've got the triple deckers pack, which I've already used a few of the triple deckers within the city, but I haven't had them detailed. I'll talk about for just a minute what I did on the screen here. I added some dorms and a library and a like kind of bigger, let's say like a science building to this college, because I wanted to just add a bit more substance to it. Okay, back to my Steam ramblings here. I got the Shotgun Houses by King Leno. I think that's going to be good for kind of not as good areas. We've got River Trace Subdivision by King Leno, and we've got this pack called the Midwestern Pre-War Pack. I don't know who made it, but there's that. There's a couple things that I think are apparently for the Pacific Northwest where it says PNW 2 by whatever residential, and there's just, names for it. And those, I think, looking at those, I didn't subscribe to all of them, but I subscribed to some that I think could fit well. I've got these Minneapolis houses, which obviously would fit the aesthetic fairly well. American Suburbs Homes, that would be Die Hard Hunter, I believe. Brick McMansions for obviously the McMansion area. We've got some Pittsburgh Bungalows, some Cleveland double houses. I got a couple of Victorian duplex or row house things, I guess. I'm not going to use those much, but I did want to have them. And there were some assets I downloaded that I'm not sure I'm going to use. The 1850 Townhouse Pack and 1850 West Coast House Pack. And the 1907 Mid-Level 2. They look nice, but I don't know if I'll be able to fit them anywhere in the city. We'll see. I'm still in the process of making those assets, so we'll see what I'm able to come up with. I don't think I'm going to be making too many assets, but I should be able to come up with a fair amount. We've got a couple modern townhouses that I might end up putting in kind of a... kind of like the small city we're eventually going to build outside of this one. I don't know if I'm going to quite detail those yet. I might go ahead and do that. I don't know. Let's see, what else do I have back in here, or is that kind of what I have for now? It looks like that's what I've got for now. I do have a bunch of planes in this because I was playing on just a fun city with this, and I made a huge airport, so I have a lot of planes in this, and it's fun. Like I said, I like working with airports in this game. I think it's very fun, and I do want to eventually get to that point where I'll be able to make an airport for Sturgeon Bay, but we're definitely a long ways from that point. Anyways, the remainder of this episode, I work on filling in the large gap area between downtown and the Foxgrove area. And like I said, I use the same houses that I've had, but I kind of have a set way that I do this now, where I just try to make sure I don't have the same houses too close to each other. I just make things fit where I can, and it always looks fairly good, I would say. And yeah, once I finished that, and I took a look back at it and realized, oh my gosh, this feels such a huge gap in the city. I posted a few of those screenshots to my Twitter, and I'm just like, wow, I love this city. And I think one of those is actually probably going to end up being the thumbnail for this episode, so you'll probably know what I'm talking about. But it's the more that I am able to do here, the better this place looks. I think if you do follow my Twitter and you find that tweet, it's specifically, I would say, the fourth image where you can actually see the university that we built, and also kind of that little church that I didn't talk about on screen that I made. You can see parts of downtown and kind of the area we're filling in now, and the entire frame is just filled with buildings instead of there actually being a bunch of empty space here and there. There's actually, it feels like a real city. There's some life here. There's cars going down the streets. There's cars parked. There's retail. There's a church. Well, actually, there's a couple of churches. There's the college. There's all the fall trees. There's all the neighborhoods, and you can see the river in the background with a bridge. And I just think that just really kind of drives it home to me that I've been able to do this sort of a city where it's like, oh my gosh, this looks really good. And then there's another screenshot in there where it's kind of from the Foxgrove area, and it's kind of nearby to a little public housing area that I have, some low income stuff, and you're just looking out towards the river and towards downtown, and it's great. It really is. And now if I can go back onto the Steam Workshop here, and I go back to my regular account, I think I can find some assets that I'm planning to use, and maybe I'll see if I have something to talk about those. Anyways, yeah, I try to put some parking behind this building here on screen, and I ended up just using a couple parking lots. I didn't know what else I would do in that space, and that's what I ended up doing. And I think that's pretty much where. No, that's not where the first part, where this episode would have ended if it was one episode. I thought it was, but it's not. Okay, so let's see. City Skylines here, and we go to the workshop. Alright, subscribed items, and we've got, I subscribed to a few things recently that I think are going to be fun to use. There's a new elementary school that I saw. It looks very nice. It's called Oakview Elementary. And there's also Rice Park Community High School, which I think is a Minnesota asset. And I've seen a lot of these little Minneapolis assets on the workshop recently, and I think those are like a godsend for what I'm trying to do. Because obviously, like I said, I'm trying to make a, fall Midwest city. Minneapolis is in the Midwest, and so that'll help me a lot. There's a King Leno made an 8-story version of his modern parking garage. That is a great thing, because I always thought that the parking garages I was able to find, those are too small, and so to have something like that, it's very nice. What's going on screen here? Yeah, I'm just continuing to fill in more area here, and you can see, like, it's not a hard process, it's just time consuming. I just have to pick a building that fits that area, that isn't too close to another one of itself, and just put it in. And because I detailed them with the nice fall trees, it kind of makes the scenery for me, and it's like, well, that just simplified a whole lot of stuff. But you can see there's still that whole area between there and Fox Grove, which that's what I'm starting to work on now. Now we're on to what would have been the 11th episode, so like the second part of this episode. And I start by putting in some triple-deckers here, and I think those are Uptown Square houses by King Leno. I think those I might want to get in and redetail too. And the reason I didn't use too much of them is because obviously they weren't detailed with the trees I like to use. But I felt like having something different would, just break up the monotony a bit. And even if it doesn't look the greatest without all the trees, I still feel like I tried my best to do it in a way where I didn't have to sacrifice too much of the aesthetic of the area. And I think I pulled it off okay. It's not the best. I don't think it was ever going to be the best. But I do what I can do, and if it's something I'm happy with, then, I'm fine with it. And it is something I'm happy with. So it gets to stay. There's even a couple vanilla assets in there that I have, I think, tagged as old. You can see in the search bar. And that's what I use to find any, like, triple-decker-ish things. And then that's... yeah, I literally just tag them as old, so, that's fun. But now we go back to filling in the rest of these, and working with the curves is kind of weird. I could use Move It to align things perfectly, but I didn't feel like doing it because I really wanted to just fill in the area. And I mean, going forward in the series, I do want to try to make things more detailed and more attention to how I do things. Use Move It more, use a lot more props and stuff. Not to the point of being overbearing with it, but certainly focus on some key areas where I think I would want to have it be like an area that's like, oh yeah, look at this is very detailed, and you can look at this. Because if I were to detail every single corner of the city, it would take far too long. But if I can focus on some focal points of builds that I want to highlight, or just any little random areas I happen to select, I think that can definitely do a lot, because it provides that sort of, hey, look at this, it's very nice, while I can still maintain an efficient workflow of, getting things done without spending 5 episodes on one neighborhood, which is not something I really want to do. Obviously, I don't know if anyone would. So anyways, the 2 other universities that are going to be in the city, I don't know if I've talked about this, so like I said, I'm sorry if I repeat myself. I really am. The 2 other universities, the next one, I don't know when I'm going to build either of these, but the next one is going to be kind of a larger university that's part of, like, let's say a state system of universities, which is kind of, this is kind of all going based off of, like, what actually is in the Inspiration City. I don't know if they actually have a technical college there. They do, thinking about it. It's just not where I put it, and definitely not like how I did it. But there is a larger university that's part of the large, state system of Wisconsin universities that we have here. And then the third university, which is going to technically be a college, is going to be more like a private one, and that's going to be in the in that small city that we end up building eventually, that I've mentioned a couple times, and that is also taken from the from the real life area where there is a private Christian college there, and they always kept trying to get me to like apply the other year, and I'm just like, no, I don't care. So that's one. But yeah, I threw in the cemetery there. I don't know if I had done that before the episode or not, but when I was playing this, like, just letting things fill in, like with people and stuff and population, for some reason I had a lot of people dying, so I had to throw in like the cemetery there, and there's a couple hidden crematoriums. I think I hid them in one of the elementary schools, don't worry about it. But it was just like, I don't know why people are dying so much in this city. Like, I'm just trying to get them to move in, and they're dying like immediately. But when you kind of build a city that's focused more on the aesthetics and the overall theme, rather than a city that's focused on functional and functionality and gameplay, I think that's kind of a thing that's going to happen fairly often. Is you're going to get service issues like healthcare issues, death care issues, fire issues. Well, hopefully not fire issues. I made sure to turn off fire spread because I think once I did have it on and I saw something spreading, and I'm like, that's not fun, so I had to turn it off, and it was not a great time, but I managed to fix it, obviously. But I mean, there's certain things that come with being able to make a city for the aesthetic that you don't get with making a city for the functionality and really the game aspect of it, and vice versa. Like when I'm building a city to look good, I can't really just make things look super, let's say, how I exactly would. Okay, let me rephrase this. When I'm building a city for aesthetics, I can't design an area just on how I normally would, where it's based on like, oh, here's this grid, but it's going to be like a huge grid, so it's going to end up looking like this huge area. No, when I do functionality, I have to think about not functionality. When I do aesthetics, I have to think about things like, for example, on the screen here, like I have to think about things like a park, like leisure for the citizens. There's service, like how I'm going to fit in services and stuff, because I don't want to put services right in the middle of a neighborhood like I would in a functionality city or something like that. I have to think about, okay, well, how am I going to make the housing, how am I going to make the housing work instead of just putting in the residential zoning tool? Because when I put the zoning in, I have no control over what houses go into a certain spot. But when I do something like this, I have complete control over that using plot durables, and it's that's a lot better. Like for this, because I know exactly kind of how this house would look really good here, or really good next to this house. But in a city for functionality, I don't worry about that. I just am like, okay, I need to get a population so I can get this, so I can make this part of the city, so I can eventually get like this, like at the airport or something. And it's like, at times that's fun when I want to experience the game, because I've never really actually experienced the game to a point where I had a just playing the game city that managed to reach 100k people. I've gotten close. I had one a couple years ago that got to about 70 or 80k, but I ended up quitting that one, unfortunately. But it's just something I go back to as like a kind of retreat when I don't want to do this for a while and I just want to relax and play the game, because apart from being a game that I do videos on, it's just a City Skylines is just a very nice game that I enjoy playing, and I've spent more hours in it than really almost any other game at this point. I would say I've been spending a lot of time in it for 5 years, and I don't really plan on stopping that sort of pattern. I don't spend as much time in it as I used to, that's for sure. But I do still spend a good chunk of time of it, and now that I have like this, series, which we're starting to finally have things, come together now. I can finally start being like, oh, here's something, because things, it was starting slow where I didn't have a whole lot of motivation, and I still never have really had the greatest sort of motivation. But once I'm able to see things kind of coming together in the way that they are, I get more motivated, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is going really nicely. I don't want to stop this. I want to see this fleshed out, and it doesn't seem nearly as daunting as when I started, especially after, what I was able to do there with the neighborhood and stuff. And this year, I believe I'm just putting in one last thing for, this is the last kind of clip of the video now. I'm trying to put in a school area, and I think this is about the point where I had the revelation of, like, you know what, I should be combining some buildings more and using more. So what I do here is I take that one, I think it's called H.B. Stowe Middle School asset, and I wanted to, like, I'm like, oh, that's too kind of small. So I add on a elementary school asset to the side of it, and I'm like, yeah, that is an appropriate size. I want to add kind of a gym onto this too, so I add this little field house asset to, I think, what is actually already a gym. I just wanted to make it larger because, like, things look too small, and I wanted to make something that, is more unique and more, I guess, has bigger scale to it, I suppose. Yeah, I think the school, it turns out fairly good. I put in a let me clear my throat. I put in a football field, I do believe, and that's just because I like to put those at every school, just as, like, it's the very simplest thing I can do as a way of detail. But it works out. I think I tried to put this asset again, but like I tried in the last episode, I think with the same one, it looks too nice. And this isn't supposed to be like a bad elementary school and like middle school or whatever it is. It's just, I don't think they would have something like that. We just had this very rudimentary sort of field here. But now that leaves me without a track to go around it. So at first I try to use, well, no, I think I do end up using it. I take this, this like pedestrian track thing or whatever, and I try to get it to go around, but I obviously can't make it perfectly, how a track would normally be oval-like, so I have to take some liberty with it. So some curves are tight, but then, instead of keeping it as a rectangle, I try to bend it out at the end here, and eventually I try to bend the whole thing a lot, and it ends up not looking great, so I kind of reverse that decision and just have it really on the one end that I've already done, because, yeah, you can see here what I try to do, and it's like, well, it just looks like a wonky NASCAR raceway. And it just isn't great. So I turned that back because, yeah, it clips into the building there, and I mean, I could have moved it so that I would have had this space, but I'm like, I really didn't think of that until I'm looking at it just now. I really could have moved that and did what I wanted to do with it. But that's fine. I had a couple gravel paths going here and there. Alright, and anyways, now we are coming to the end of this episode. I do want to say, I did grab a small little cinematic. It's just one shot, but it's going through the city because I was so happy with how it ended up looking. That I decided to take a shot of going through the city. I was so happy with it. I decided I'm going to throw that into this video, just as, something, and hopefully we can start getting cinematics back soon. I know that I haven't done cinematics in a long time with the series. I do apologize. I promise you, I'll get more cinematics in the next episode. Anyways, guys, if you did like this episode, please comment, leave a like, maybe subscribe, go check out my Twitter, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Enjoy the cinematics. Goodbye.